Kumagyanatmirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajunulambito Bujo Kanakabhatatu Sankirtanaya Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gurudaye Pushpavanto Chitro Sangdo Tamuno Vandeham Śrī Rāma Krishna Abhayo Charano Sako Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subhati He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye.
Shri Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara Ki Jai, Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī Ki Jai, Sat Sandarbhas Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnavind Ki Jai. Glorious devotees, thank you for coming to another presentation on Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī's Sat Sandarbhas. We'll continue today with our discussion of the Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha in detail, beginning with the 9th Anucheda. We note here that Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī is going through the avatars listed by Sutta Goswami in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, step by step. So he will, in his Anuchedas, present all of the verses given by Sutta Goswami in relationship to 21 avataric descents, and then he will elaborate on those other manifestations of the Lord within the material manifestation, avatars, and the different distinctions between them, proceeding to the Parivās Sutra, at which point the discussion will become extremely deep and nuanced, bringing forth the underlying siddhanta regarding Lord Krishna, the tattva, which underlies the whole basis for our understanding of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and our acceptance of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as the primary praman in regard to spiritual revelation has already been presented comprehensively by Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī in the Tattva Sandarbha. So there'll be a lot of just reading these in a systematic manner. Since Jīva Gosvāmī has taken considerable time to basically bring forth every single avatar that Sutta Goswami mentions, there must be some significance to his taking this approach. And as we go through, we'll see that generally the acharyas recommend, when one take up study of the Bhagavat Purana, a systematic approach to the transcendental literature. So systematically, one is recommended to read from the 1st through the 12th canto. Not that one jumps around from one canto to the other, but rather that an approach to the Bhagavad is taken very systematically, just as Maharaj Parikshit heard it from Srila Sukadeva Goswami, one subject after another. And we'll notice that all of these avatars that Jiva Goswami is going to speak of here, coming from Sutta Goswami's discourse in response to the sages regarding the avataric descents of the Lord. Please outline those for us, was the inquiry from Sonika on the behalf of the sages. So the underlying principles of these avataric descents, how these avataric descents are presented in summary form by Sutta Goswami and elaborately by Srila Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, how that's done, really, we have to see the significance of that, in that in presenting the details of some of the descents. There's unlimited manifestations of the Lord coming into the material universes, but by highlighting a few of them, as Sukadeva Goswami has done in his discourse with Maharaj Parikshit, it goes to further enhance the primary subject of the text, which is the Supreme Lord Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the avatārī, or the source of all these avatars. So we start with the various avatars, and eventually, step by step, Srila Sukadeva goes through various narrations, bringing out their specific qualities and the specific nature of their pastimes in relationship to the material world, and specifically, of course, in relationship with the devotees that interact with them, and how they're benefited and enlightened through such interaction. So we'll continue here with Nāyanoceta, the fourth avatar, the sages Nara and Narayan. In the fourth avatar, taking birth from Murti, the devoted wife of Dharma, he appeared as the twin sages Nara and Narayan, the presiding deity of Varsa, and undertook severe austerity with perfect mastery of the self. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1:3-9. The meaning here is self-evident. Commentary in this regard: the sages of Nara and Narayan are twins and have been counted as one avatar. They reside in the Himalayas. Their appearance is narrated in the first chapter of the fourth canto. They were born from Murti, the wife of Dharma. They are the presiding deity of Varsa. Going on to the fifth avatar, Kapiladeva. In the fifth avatar, Sutta Goswami speaks, he appeared as the sage known as Kapila, the master of all perfected beings, siddhas, who instructed Asuri in the Sankhya philosophy that precisely determines the nature of the evolutionary principles, tattvas, a doctrine that had been lost due to the influence of time. The word Asuri Raye means that he spoke it to the Brahmana named Asuri. So here we see Sutta Goswami speaking of the Lord coming again and again, yada yada hi dharma shya, when the dharma, when the proper understanding of the nature of the self is lost, then the Lord appears again and again in order to reestablish it. And we notice through all these avataric descents, the Lord is always looking after and looking to the well-being of everyone within his material manifestations. So he's coming in unlimited forms. It's spoken that he's appearing in every species of life. So it's not like the Lord has just manifested the world and given it over to us to suffer and enjoy as we see fit, although we do within the material world take on a sense of I-ness and my-ness within this world, which leads to, often leads to our suffering, the consequences of our activities. Such suffering is not done without the Lord providing for us proper directives which can be followed to not only avoid suffering, not only attain the major purusharthas, artha, dharma, karma, kama, and moksha. He's provided all the guidelines for this, but also in these avataric descents, those living entities who turn their consciousness towards him in devotion are afforded the opportunity to end in its entirety their material existence and take on a spiritual existence free of all of the encumbrances which material nature confronts us with. So it's a further ornament of the Lord's unlimited compassion, these unlimited avataric descents. What to speak of when we talk about receiving an opportunity to engage in the process of bhakti itself through the compassionate nature of the Lord's devotees. Now, he doesn't offer that opportunity directly, but he utilizes his devotees. Otherwise, he could be charged with being preferential, of offering devotion to one and neglecting another. But rather, the devotees, utilizing their discriminatory power, make an offering of devotion, specifically in bhakti. They make that available according to their fine discrimination. Regarding Kapiladeva, the appearance and teachings of Kapila are described in chapters 23 to 33 of the third canto. The word siddha here refers to a person permanently established in immediate realization of the self. Sankhya teaches discernment between the material body, prakriti, and the conscious self, purusha. This distinction forms the basis of all spirituality. Sankhya is said to be the oldest school of philosophy. One of its unique contributions to philosophy in general is its theory of the three gunas that constitute primordial nature, prakriti. Besides the Sankhya of the Bhagavat school referred to here, there is also that of the classical school. which differs from the former in certain important details. That Sankhya too is propagated by another Kapila, who is different from the Kapila of the Bhagavat. The Kapila of classical Sankhya is said to be an incarnation of Agni. He is the author of Sankhya Sutras. The sixth avatar, Dattatreya. In the sixth avatar, he appeared as the son of the sage Atri on the entreaty of his wife Anasuya. He instructed Alarka, Prahlad, and others in the metaphysics of the self, unvikshiki. Jiva Goswāmī writes in regards to this verse from the Bhagavatam, according to the version of the fourth canto of the Bhagavat, it is Atri who openly petitioned the Lord with the sole intent of obtaining a son similar to him. From the above verse, however, it appears that at some time, Anasuya had also requested a boon from Śrīmad-Ishvara himself to appear directly as her son. On account of this is mentioned in the Pativrata episode of the Brahmananda Purana. And then Śrīla Jīva Gosvāmī quotes from the Brahmananda Purana. Anasuya, bowing down to the Devas, Brahma, Isa, Shiva, and Keshava, addressed them as follows. If you are pleased with me and consider me worthy to receive a boon, then may all of you be kindly disposed. Being kindly disposed, appear as my sons. Unvikshiki means the metaphysics of the self, Atma Vidya. The avatar referred to in this verse is Dattatreya, who is an avatar of Śrī Vishnu himself. Some commentary in regards to what Jiva has written in his Anucheta. The story of Dattatreya's birth, is given in the first chapter of the fourth canto. Atri's wife, Anasuya, gave birth to Soma, Datta, and Durvas. Among these three, Datta is an avatar of Vishnu. Soma is the partial expansion of Brahma, and Durvas of Shiva. This was discussed in Paramatma Sandarbha, Anucheta 17. The word unvikshiki is popularly used in the sense of logic. Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī, however, glosses it as the metaphysics of the self, Atma Vidya, since that is the meaning most appropriate to the present context. In the 7th to 9th chapters of the 11th canto, Śrī Kṛṣṇa relates the instructions of an unnamed Avadut to Yadu Maharaj. Vamsidhar and other commentators identify the Avadut as Dattatreya on the authority of verse 274 of the Bhagavatam, which states that kings such as Yadu and Haihaya attained yogic perfection by the grace of Dattatreya. What's interesting here is that Anasuya, Atri's wife, made a direct appeal to have these three, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, appear as her sons, whereas Anasuya simply wanted a offspring like the Supreme Lord. So those two desires resulted in the appearance of Dattatreya, who is a manifestation of Lord Vishnu, an avatar of Vishnu. So Anasuya's request was more direct and therefore was directly answered. And of course, Atri's request was also answered he wanted a son like the Supreme Lord. Well, there's no son like the Supreme Lord more than the Supreme Lord himself. Seventh avatar, Yajna. Thereafter, in the seventh avatar, the Purusha appeared as Yajna from Akuti, the wife of Ruchi, assisted by the host of Devas headed by Yama, who were his sons. He presided over the Manvantara of Swayambhuva Manu. The meaning of the second line of the verse is that Yajna himself took the office of Indra during that period. So during the Swayambhuva Manvantara, Manvantara is a period of reign of one Manu. This period is 17 cycles of the 4 yugas, I believe. If memory served me right. So within one day of Brahma, there are 14, I'm sorry, a Manvantara, or a period of Manu, is 71 cycles, because there are 14 Manus within one day of Brahma. So they reside for quite a long time. And as they reside, there is also the assignment of the ministers or the devas within the heavens who take on various posts during their administration. So those posts also, it would appear from the Bhagavan and how it's presented, that those devas, their duration in office as a specific demigod would correspond to the length of a Manvantara. Little commentary: Indra is the name of the post of the King of Heaven. Sometimes Bhagavan himself assumes this post, as in the case of Yajna described here. Yama and the host of Devas were the sons of Yajna. Although Yajna was the son of Akuti and Ruchi, he was adopted by his maternal grandfather, Swayambhuva, Manu. This is described in the first chapter of the 4th canto. So we see all these various avatars that Sutta is highlighting in response to the inquiry of the sages headed by Sunaka. All of them are unpacked by Sukadeva Goswami in his narration to Maharaj Parikshit. So if we wanted, we could go through every avatar and go to these specific sections in the Bhagavatam and become more acquainted with the qualities, the characteristics, and the lila, or the pastimes of these avataric descents in relationship to the material manifestation. And as I said, all of these are preliminary understandings of the significance of their contributions, all seen in light, specifically through this Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha of the extreme glory of Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa himself. And then we, in this Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha, after we get through this initial presentation of the avataric descents, and we go into an understanding of Krishna as Svayaṁ Bhagavān, then Krishna's, the details of Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa, his leelas, his qualities, his characteristics, his abodes, and his associates will be elaborately unpacked by Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī in this Sandarbha. 8th avatar, Rishabdev. In the 8th avatar, the Purusha appeared as Urukrama, he who performs extraordinary deeds from Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi. He revealed the path of the highly self-realized, Dhiranam, which is revered by people belonging to all stages of life, ashrams. The name Urukrama here refers to Rishabh, who appeared as the 8th avatar. A little commentary here in regards to the descent of Rishabh-Dev. The 8th avatar was Rishabh-Dev. In the last phase of his life, he renounced his kingdom and led a life of supremely elevated awareness, known as Avadut or Paramahamsa. Sridhar Swami glosses Vartma Dhiranam, the path of the highly self-realized, as the final ashram, which is this Avadut ashram, the path of supreme wisdom, Paramahamsa, which is revered by all other ashrams. In this stage, Rishabh-Dev wandered over the earth while remaining utterly absorbed in the self, without any concern for his bodily requirements. His story is narrated in chapters 3 to 5 of the 5th canto. The word Urukrama, literally, he who strides widely, is used to denote Rishabh, who performed extraordinary deeds as an avadut. The term avadut refers to a class of spiritualists who are so highly elevated that they are unable to care even for their own bodily needs. They are without concern for conventional morality or social norms. They're in a class of their own, so to speak. We can't fit them into the Varnashram system anywhere because they have no concerns in regards to their material existence. So much that they don't even concern themselves with their bodily maintenance. So what a highly elevated position. And of course, they're cared for within material nature, but they're the exemplar within human society of the ultimate objective of complete renunciation of anything to do with material entanglement. The 9th avatar, Prithu Maharaj. Sutta Goswami speaks, O Brahmanas, in the 9th avatar, on the request of the sages, he, the Purusha, accepted the form of a king, Prithu, and milked the earth to make it yield food and medicinal plants. Due to such action, this avatar was most appealing. Parthivam Vapu means the body of a king in the form of Prithu. The word dugda here should properly be adugda, meaning milked. Usatama, qualifying sa ayam, this avatar means the most pleasing kamaniya. Prithu was born from the arms of the dead body of his father, Vena, who was killed by the sages because of his atheistic behavior. The sages churned the right hand of Vena and prayed to Bhagavan, who then appeared as Prithu. The churning of the right hand signifies that the sages wanted a Kshatriya to rule the kingdom. Prithu milked the earth to supply the people with their needs. As a result, Prithu is referred to as the most appealing, Usatama. This story is narrated in chapters 15 to 23 of the 4th canto. So, Vena was the king of the world for some period of time, but unfortunately, he took his position. He became a little overwhelmed by his position. And being so overwhelmed that he even neglected the direction of the Brahminical class, which is always there to support a king and provide proper instructions to him as to the proper administration of their kingdom. And Vena at that time was king of the world. So he basically started to persecute the Brahmanas, and he refused to follow their directions, and as a result, he was cursed, and he was cursed to death. His mother took his dead body and placed it in a preservative of a herbal bath preservative, and because of that, the Brahmanas could go to her and arrange for this churning of a significant, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto, significant right hand of his dead body. And from that churning and their Brahminical powers and prayers to the Supreme Lord, the Lord himself appeared as Prithu and basically put everything back in order. So the earth, because of Vena's mismanagement, refused. No more production for me. If this is your leader, and this is the way he treats the Brahmanas, and this is the way he treats his citizens, I am not going to give forth the bounty which is normally there when there is a proper reciprocation between the various members of human society and a proper appreciation for the Lord and those that administrate the material manifestation for the lords, the demigods in different positions of administration. So when all that is neglected, then Mother Earth, there's definitely some reaction. So Mother Earth at that time, as relayed in the 4th canto, she withheld the bounty. And when Prithu made his appearance, he made amends with Mother Earth, and he was allowed to milk her and so many other personalities for the essence of life. He again brought balance to the circle of life as it is meant to be within the world. So that's the significance of the Lord's descent as Prithu Maharaj. And we take much instruction from the 4th canto regarding his milking of the earth and his putting things back in order after there's improper management. So there is significance to this in that the Lord does have a plan for everybody, and he does care and does have concern through his agents who are in the management positions of the material world. And if we're willing to follow his directives as put forth in scripture and as coming down through the sadhus and through the Brahmins, the head of society, if we're willing to follow nicely, then everything is provided for us. The 10th avatar, Matsyadev. In the 10th avatar, during the oceanic deluge of the Chakshusha Manvantara, he assumed the form of a fish. He protected Vaivashvata Manu by placing him on a boat in the form of the earth. That's the verse spoken by Sutta. Jiva Goswāmī writes and unpacks it as follows. The adverbial clause during the oceanic deluge of the Chakshusha Manvantara refers to the deluge that occurs at the end of that period. Vaivashvata is the name that would be given later to King Satyavrata. A deluge occurs even at the end of every Manvantara. I'm sorry, I didn't read that right. A deluge occurring even at the end of every Manvantara is heard of in Shastra. In the first canto of Śrī Vishnu Dhammadhara Purana, King Vajra asked, "O greatly fortunate Brahmana, please explain what takes place at the end of a Manvantara." In response, Sri Markandeya says, "O Vajra, the mighty Ishvara in the form of the ocean, tempestuous with boundless waves, covers the earth in its entirety. O Yadava, at that time, all objects on earth are destroyed, but, O best of kings, the famous Kula mountains are not destroyed. Everything else besides the mountains listed in the previous verses, movable and unmovable, is destroyed. On that occasion, O descendant of Yadu, the earth, becoming a boat, equally holds all types of seeds, the future Manu and the future 7 sages." Śrī Vishnu Dhammadhara Purana. Jiva Goswāmī continues, the same conclusion is perfectly evident in Harivamsa Purana from the chapter entitled Dissolution at the End of Each Manvantara, as well as in the commentary on that section. It is therefore to be understood that the mention of the Chakshusha Manvantara and Vaivashvata Manu in the verse serves simply as an indicator, upalaksana, for the Purushas assuming this form and protecting other Manus in other Manvantaras also. So Jiva is making the point here in this Anucheta that this descent, Matsyadev, is coming at the end of every Manvantara. And as we mentioned, there are 14 Manus in a day of Brahma. So Matsyadev, according to Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī, in his Sandarbhas, is saying, is appearing again and again, because this specific descent that Sutta Goswāmī is pointing to at the beginning of the Bhagavatam is an upalakshana. It's an indicator of for all the other Manvantaras and the ends of their reign. So Jiva's taken the time to point this out so that there's no misunderstanding regarding what's stated in Shastra. According to our Gaudiya perspective, he's arrived at this conclusion. Some commentary here. Here it is stated that Matsyadev appeared at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, when the earth was submerged in the ocean. He protected King Satyavrata by carrying him in a boat in the form of the earth. Satyavrata became the Manu called Vaivashvata in the 7th Manvantara, which is running at present. Śrī Jīva Goswāmī comments that although the deluge is described as occurring at the end of the Chakshusha Manu period, this is merely indicative of its recurrence at the end of each Manvantara. The story of Matsya Avatāra is found in the 24th chapter of the 8th canto. He appeared to protect King Satyavrata, the sages, and all seeds and herbs during the deluge. Bhagavan appeared as a gigantic fish with a horn. The king tied a boat to his horn and ascended into it along with the sages and the seeds. While roaming through the waters of devastation, Matsya offered instruction on spiritual topics. It may be noted that the story of such a deluge is common in most religions. The word Noah is cognate, same original word or root with the Sanskrit word now, a boat. So it appears that some of the Vedic knowledge is also coming into the other spiritual paths within human society over time. The 11th avatar, Kurma, in the 11th avatar, when the Suras and Asuras were churning the ocean, the omnipresent Purusha, assuming the form of a tortoise, supported the Mandara mountain on his back. The meaning is self-evident. The story of Kurma Avatar is given in chapters 5 to 8 of the 8th canto. It forms part of the episode of the churning of the ocean of milk. This is one of the most popular stories described in the Itihasas and Puranas. Kurma, who is the symbol of stability, became the support for the Mandara mountain, which is being used as the churning rod. The Dhanvantari and Mohini avatars also appeared in the course of this event. And then Sutta Goswami went on to describe these two avatars, the 12th and 13th avatars, Dhanvantari and Mohini. In the 12th avatar, the Purusha assumed the form of Dhanvantari, and in the 13th, he gave the Suras nectar to drink while bewildering the others, the Asuras, in the form of an enchanting, beautiful woman, Mohini. Through syntactical connection, anvaya, the verb assumed, be brought, is to be adduced from the immediately succeeding verse, meaning that he accepted the form of Dhanvantari in his 12th avatar and that of Mohini in the 13th. In the clause he gave the Suras to drink, the word nectar, Sudha, should be added to complete the sense. In which form did he do so? In the form of an enchanting woman, Mohini. What was he doing? Bewildering the others, meaning the Asuras. This description should be completed by adding, he brought the nectar in the form of Dhanvantari. These three, Kurma, Dhanvantari, and Mohini, are all avatars of Bhagavan Ajita. So we can see Śrī Jīva Gosvāmī is unpacking the Sanskrit, which is the verse spoken by Sutta Goswami, and he's filling in the proper understanding for what Sutta is presenting here. He's giving us, he's unpacking the Sanskrit, and he's saying, if we take, this is the way we should take this verse spoken by Sutta and what it means when we put it in proper perspective. So this is the position of the acharyas. They're always taking the Shastra and they're unpacking it completely for our edification so that we can see things in the proper perspective. Some commentary here. The story of the churning of the ocean of milk is narrated in chapters 6 to 12 of the 8th canto. Kurma, Dhanvantari, and Mohini all appeared during the churning of this ocean. The significance of the story in regard to bhakti is that to produce the ambrosia of the bliss of devotion, one must skillfully administer one's favorable and unfavorable inclinations in the course of service. One must be discriminating enough not to feed unwanted desires, as Mohini cleverly withheld nectar from the asuras. One must act under the guidance of an authentic guru and fully depend on Krishna, as the Devas did. Like Kurma, a realized guru provides the foundation for spiritual life. Bhagavan Ajita, the unconquerable one, helps to curb one's pride. So we could see some further significance being given here in the commentary as to what the sadhaka can draw from the narration of this pastime, how we should take care in our devotional practice to properly nourish those tendencies, hearing, chanting, remembering, associating with the devotees, all the safeguards that the acharyas have given us in regards to our devotional life, and how we should gradually withhold giving much significance to the mind-body complex and all the complexities of the desires in relationship to our false sense of identity there. So gradually we can come to the proper understanding. We can discard all of our anarthas during the period of anartha nivritti, and including in those anarthas are not only sinful tendencies or tendencies, pious or sinful tendencies in regards to material existence and our false sense of self, but also and significantly to give up misconceptions in regards to spirituality itself. So just as we see Jiva has unpacked this one verse from Sutta to bring out the full meaning, and here we have a comment on the verse to further bring out how it's significant in our lives. This is what our acharyas give us. And more important than what we know is our continued commitment to being open to learning more. So it's not just the accumulation of knowledge, it's more development of the fine discrimination to continue the inquiry as we push on. Swami Tripurari just wrote this in regards to some recent discourse that's happening online in regards to the nature of the jiva and inherent or inherited by Swami Padmanabha, which they are working on developing into a book, that all these counter arguments are there and they appear to be rooted in so much knowledge, but there has to be more important than all this knowledge and all these quotes of this perspective and that perspective. There has to be the overriding siddhanta of our sampradaya and our ongoing willingness to remain open to the continual unfolding of these transcendental truths for our understanding. So the knowledge that you would give one, preliminary knowledge of mathematics you would give one in their beginning years of schooling, would help build a foundation, but eventually, as they go on, the more complex understandings will be revealed. So there is some scope for presenting spiritual life and being presented spiritual life by the acharyas according to our time, our place, and our circumstance. And specifically in regards to our circumstance is our qualification at any point in time. And the bona fide spiritual master is perfectly qualified to judge what is the qualification that we have, and what is our mental state and our conditioning, and present the message in such a way that it could enthuse our further practice. And the way he presents it and what he presents today, it may be different from what he presents tomorrow. This is a very significant point. And if we are so fortunate as to remain open to continually learning from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, the learning will not end, and the depth of our understanding will not be fixed in any one point in time, but it'll always be a dynamic affair where we are continually receiving more and more revelation according to our ever-increasing qualification. Moving ahead to that favorite of the Gaudiyas, the 14th avatar, Nṛsiṁha. In the 14th avatar, the Purusha assumed the form of a man-lion, Nṛsiṁha. Placing the powerful king of the Daityas, Hiranyakasipu, upon his thighs, he shredded him with his claws as easily as a straw mat craftsman splits straws. Erika. The clause Nṛsiṁha be brought, literally, he assumed that which is of or related to Nṛsiṁha, means that he assumed the form, rupa, of Nṛsiṁha. Some commentary. The story of Bhagavan Nṛsiṁha is found in chapters 8 to 10 of the 7th canto. This account demonstrates that a devotee cannot be subdued by a non-devotee, even under the most trying of circumstances. It also informs us that one cannot become immortal through the material intellect alone, as attempted by Hiranyakasipu. A finite being cannot outsmart the infinite, omniscient God. We have time for one more here. So in a Leela discussion regarding a smaller manifestation of the Supreme Lord in one way, the 15th avatar, Vamanadev. In the 15th avatar, assuming the form of a dwarf, the Purusha went to the sacrificial arena of King Bali and begged land from him, measuring 3 steps with the intention of taking back the domain of the gods. The verb kritva, having done, means after manifesting, prakataya. The story of Vamanadev is narrated in chapters 18 to 22. of the 8th canto, the word Vamanaka, literally a dwarf, carries the additional sense of one who dwarfs the pride of miscreants. Dustanam madam vamayatiti vamanakam. This tale demonstrates that if, like Bali, one remains under the shelter of one's guru, he remains unopposed even by God himself. Everything belongs to God, and if one offers all one's so-called possessions to him, he in turn becomes subservient to such a person. So we've made quite a bit of progress in this discussion. We'll finish up with the listing presented by Sutta and elaborated upon by Jiva in our next discourse on the Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha. And then we enter into a more in-depth philosophical analysis of the nature of Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa in relationship to his other avataric descents and his other appearances in the world through his various Shaktis and empowered agents. I thank you so much for your association. If there's any questions, I will certainly take them at this time. There is a question here from Sarada Singh in regards to Avatāra. Some say that Noah was one of the Manus as well as Moses at another time. Can we know when the next deluge will be? If we can measure these periods of time, that is mentioned here. So let's go with, do we know when the next deluge would be? Yes, we're in the 26th Yuga cycle of Vaivasvata Manu. Since there's 71 Yuga cycles, if we deduct the 26 from the 71, I can't do the math in my head right now, but at the end of Vaivasvata Manu, according to what Jīva Gosvāmī's presented here in his Kṛṣṇa Sandarbha, there will be the next deluge. That would be similar to Moses and the Noah and their ark, and also what's put forth here in regards to Avatāra. Also, what wisdom can we glean from these verses today and use it in our everyday life in respect to bhakti yoga, especially for the non-initiated devotees? I hear that you have already touched on this, but I had already written the question. All right, well, I hope I have answered that. There's much to be gleaned in regards to our devotional life. The entirety of the Bhagavat Purana is there, and all these narrations are there to bring out specific aspects of seeing these particular avataric descents and how these avatars have interacted with their devotees and acted on behalf of the protection of human society in general. We've seen in that much that can be gained if we carefully contemplate all of these various avataric descents. All this will gradually come out, and specifically in regards to hearing the Bhagavat Purana from the Sadguru, from the spiritual master, fully qualified, he's able to bring out all of this in regards to the significance in regards to our advancing Krishna consciousness. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. That's very powerful and powerfully put and empowering too. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So with that, I will end this discourse. I thank you so much for your kind association. Vanchakalpadubhischa, Kripasindhabheva-cha, Patitanam, Pamanevyo, Vaishnavedyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kirtana Gana Tana Pano Premamritam Manidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyau Priyakarau Nirmasanau Pujitau